Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, you've been right there with us, wading through all the complexities of this post-Clampett world, trying to fit the pieces together from, well, all sorts of sources.
That's been quite the journey.
It really has. And today, we're doing it again, but with a really specific focus. The Ottawa Diplomat. We're looking at all the articles they published just on April 14th, 2025.
A snapshot in time.
Exactly. Think of it like a rapid briefing, hitting the key movements, the key signals from that one day, but building on everything we've already talked about. So first up, the headline grabbing everyone's attention. Liam Wu. He's now officially the 6th Duke of Guadalajara.
Right. And what's really interesting here, especially picking up from our earlier talks about, how global power is reshaping, is how even in this completely changed world, some of these, historical lines just persist. We've tracked the Wu family since the crisis, Kevin Wu's role at Toledo.
Huge moment.
Absolutely. And now, with his father passing just days before, this really quick, seemingly smooth transition to Liam. It just highlights how important these established houses still are for stability.
Yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah, the Diplomat definitely paints that picture. Very formal, but hopeful, too. Queen Leonor of Spain herself presiding over the coronation.
Powerful visual.
Right, especially with the alliance structure now. And she had positive things to say about Liam, his qualifications, even his NGO work here in Ottawa. Seems like real optimism down in Guadalajara, like they think he's genuinely ready.
And that optimism, I think it's probably built on the family's track record, like you said.
Yeah.
Kevin Wu's bravery at Toledo, that wasn't just a footnote. It really cemented their standing.
Sure.
So Liam, he's inheriting more than just the title. He gets this reservoir of public trust earned the hard way. It shows how crucial that demonstrated resilience is for leadership legitimacy after the crisis.
But like always, it's not quite that simple, is it? The Diplomat does mention some rumblings, traditionalists.
Oh, yes.
Liam's unmarried, no kids. And for some, that brings up those, familiar worries about the dynasty's future, that classic tension, personal life versus perceived duty.
And the tension, it really speaks to that wider theme we keep bumping into, trying to mesh tradition with the, frankly, weird realities of the world now. Liam's international background, definitely a plus for many.
Yeah.
Positions Guadalajara, well, potentially. But the dynastic need for an heir, that's still a powerful force, a reminder of the old frameworks still shaping things.
Which flows right into the next bit in the Diplomat's coverage. Who's going to be the next Duchess? Like, the coronation barely finished, and boom, speculation starts.
The succession question is clearly paramount.
Totally. And two names are popping up. Arabeth de Bourbon, Queen Leonor's cousin, interestingly, and Nadia Sforza, daughter of the Duke of Milan. These aren't just about finding a suitable partner, are they?
Oh, not at all. If you connect this back to that complex web of European alliances we've been trying to map, these are potentially major geopolitical moves. A Bourbon link. That ties the WUS even closer to Spain, a key player in the sense of right alliance, which, formed to create stability post-Clampett.
Yeah, Miss Forza's.
That could boost Guadalajara's clout within Italy, a region that's historically vital and, well, increasingly relevant again in this new power balance.
The article also floats the idea that Liam's time abroad in Ottawa might mean he looks beyond the usual aristocratic circles. Could we see a break from tradition there?
It's definitely something to think about. A fascinating possibility. It could reflect a shift maybe in how these old power structures work now. His experience might make him value different things in a partner, maybe diplomatic skill over just bloodlines.
But the pressure for a politically smart match must still be immense.
Oh, absolutely. That dynastic security pressure, it's a huge constraint. Powerful.
Okay, let's pivot hard now. From European royalty to a very different kind of power dynamic in North America. The Ottawa Diplomat drops a bit of a bombshell. Orcish warlord Curzon the Vindicator. He's based in Fang Lair, which we knew as Raleigh.
That's right.
He sent a message seeking peace with LT General Glenroy Davis. That feels, well, really unexpected given what we know about the Orcs.
It is unexpected. And Curzon's message, it could signal a really major fracture within the Orcish Horde, something we've sort of hinted might be happening, challenges to Deathcleaver's control. That's the key part. He says, Cargill, Deathcleaver, who's holed up in New Bug Tussle, old DC, is dangerously obsessed with the Queen Mother. Granny Clampett.
Granny Clampett. Wow. And Curzon thinks this obsession is, what, a betrayal? Like not sticking to the plan?
Exactly. A betrayal of their original goals. Orcish supremacy, dominance. It sounds like a fundamental split is opening up, an ideological rift, really, a break from that seemingly unified force we saw emerge during the crisis.
So it's like Deathcleaver's gone off script and some orcs aren't happy.
Precisely. Curzon's message suggests growing disillusionment. By accusing Deathcleaver of prioritizing this fixation over the core mission, Curzon's basically challenging his right to lead, appealing to a more traditional Orcish view.
The diplomat even mentions Dissent from the Ice Wolf clan. We talked about them before, right? Always a bit independent.
Yes, the Ice Wolves. Their alignment with Curzon, if true, is significant. They're formidable, historically somewhat autonomous. It shows Deathcleaver's central control is definitely eroding.
It all seems to track with our earlier thoughts that the Orcish forces were never truly monolithic after the initial crisis. Deathcleaver grabbed power, sure, but it was always contested underneath.
Exactly. His consolidation was never total. And this bizarre focus on the Queen Mother seems to be the spark igniting that internal rebellion. It really highlights how power vacuums work post-conflict. Even when one force seems dominant, those underlying tensions can just boil over and lead to fragmentation.
And speaking of fragmentation, the diplomat has more. Jura Bonejaw, Targath Bonejaw's son, is claiming parts of Virginia. He's set up a tent city, basically, in the Appalachians, and it's cutting off Deathcleaver's supply lines.
That's a huge logistical hit. Jura Bonejaw moving into the Appalachians isn't just carving out territory, it's actively disrupting Deathcleaver. It signals another independent faction popping up, making the whole situation much messier, much weaker for Deathcleaver overall. And it keeps going. Regay's Firehand, reportedly solidifying control in the Florida and Louisiana swamps. The article mentions his brutal reputation.
Regay's Firehand.
Yeah.
His control suggests a different kind of leadership down there. Maybe less about grand strategy, more about local dominance through sheer terror. It adds another layer to this fracturing picture. Probably means more instability for people in that region.
Then there's Gelcash the Seer, taking nominal leadership in Stonemar, Arkansas. It really sounds like the old Orcish territories are just breaking up into these separate, probably competing zones.
Gelcash and Stonemar just reinforces that pattern, decentralization. It paints a clear picture. A major power vacuum. No single orc leader is really in charge anymore. This could mean long-term instability, lots of localized fighting between these new warlords. So, with all this orc-on-orc conflict, what's happening on the Tennessee front? Richard Rogers, writing for The Diplomat, says things are unusually quiet there. A big change from the intense fighting we've heard about before.
That quiet is almost certainly a direct result of these internal power struggles. Like the article suggests, Deathcleaver is probably pulling resources, shifting his focus north, maybe towards Michigan, towards Fort Pontchartrain.
Which is strategically vital for the western states. We've covered that losing Fort Pontchartrain would be catastrophic. Industry, population.
Absolutely devastating. It remains a critical artery. Losing it cripples their capacity, displaces huge numbers, and it's a massive symbolic win for the orcs, even if they are fractured.
Rogers also mentions the internal struggles themselves as a reason for the lull. Maybe they're just too busy fighting each other right now.
That's very likely. With Curzon, Bonejaw, Firehand, Gelcash all making moves, Deathcleaver has to divert forces just to shore up his own position. That leads to less pressure elsewhere, like Tennessee. So, ironically, the internal conflict is giving the western states a breather, at least for now.
Okay, let's shift focus again. Another group causing concern. The Church of the Ozark Ascension. The Diplomat reports forces linked to them, led by an Enrique Palma Delgado, landed near St. Augustine, Florida. They came by sea from Cuba. Given their history.
Yeah,
that's notable.
It is, especially when you recall that sense of right alliance assessment we discussed.
Yeah.
The one flagging the church as a potential resurgent force.
Right, I remember that.
Palma Delgado was involved in church stuff in Cuba before, so this looks like a deliberate, coordinated move to get a foothold back in the region.
And St. Augustine.
Yeah.
The ruins providing cover. Sounds like they picked their spot carefully.
The ruins could definitely offer concealment, a defensible position. That strategic choice, plus arriving by sea, suggests real planning. They might be aiming for something more permanent, maybe clandestine, down there in Florida.
So those earlier concerns about the church destabilizing things, they seem pretty valid right now.
It definitely lends weight to those worries. This beachhead needs close watching by the alliance, by the western states, figuring out their real goals, their resources. That's going to be crucial.
And it gets weirder. The Diplomat has an even more unsettling report. Ozark hierarch Carlos Villahermosa himself, spotted in New Bug Tussle, overseeing construction of some kind of large, dark altar with disturbing symbols.
Villahermosa, in orc territory. That's highly significant. and deeply troubling.
Especially since the church has been making noises about peace lately.
Exactly. It completely undermines their public statements, especially Villahermosa's own assurances from Havana. Him being personally involved with building this ominous altar, it raises huge questions about their real agenda and potential collaboration with orcs.
The article mentions the fear around it, dark magic, maybe trying to bring back the Lich King or even Granny Clampett, taps right into those lingering post-crisis nightmares.
Understandably so. Given the devastation caused by both the Lich King and Granny, seeing a high-ranking church official building something like that in orc territory, it absolutely fuels those anxieties about resurrecting or harnessing those forces again.
It's such a contradiction. Villahermosa talks peace in Havana, but he's allegedly overseeing something sinister in New Bug Tussle.
The disconnect is stark. It screams deception. Either the church leadership is playing a double game, or maybe there are factions within the church going rogue, pursuing something much darker.
Predictably, the church denies Villahermosa was in New Bug Tussle. They doubled down on peace from Havana, condemned Deathcleaver again. But the diplomat notes skepticism is growing, especially with Deathcleaver's Queen Mother focus possibly aligning with old church beliefs. It's murky.
The denial was almost inevitable. But denying it while these reports surface, it strains belief. And you're right, those historical echoes between some church theology and Granny Clampett's influence, they raise legitimate questions about some kind of alignment, even if it's not public, or maybe even direct collaboration.
Okay, switching tracks again, something more hopeful maybe. The Stargate Project. The diplomat says Dr. Alistair Finch from CERN and our Dr. Daniel Jackson were touring the Dissent bunker here in Ottawa, and apparently they liked what they saw.
The Dissent bunker. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Secure, self-sufficient, underground, built for the Cold War, ironically perfect for the unique needs of interdimensional travel.
So this could be the base for the new Stargate team we've been hearing about.
Finch and Jackson reacting positively. It strongly suggests they're zeroing in on it. Progress is being made on that crucial initiative. It's a good sign for that international collaboration we need.
It's kind of wild repurposing a Cold War bunker for that. Symbolically interesting.
Isn't it? A symbol of old terrestrial conflict, potentially becoming a launch pad beyond Earth, shows adaptability, commitment to discovery, even with everything else going on.
And Canada's clearly involved, but so is France. The diplomat also reports France just pledged 80 million euros to CERN. That's the biggest donation they've gotten since the crisis.
Wow, 80 million euros.
Yeah. King Gaston II apparently stressed CERN's vital role in global security now. Seems CERN's job description has expanded a bit.
That contribution really underscores how CERN's role is seen internationally now, not just pure science anymore. King Gaston's words confirm it. CERN is critical for security in this new era. With these new possibilities and threats, the money reflects the high stakes.
Dr. Finch was grateful, said it boosts their research and security capabilities. So yes, CERN's clearly central now. Science, security, stability, it's all tied together there.
Precisely. That unique mix of science and interdimensional security makes CERN indispensable now. France's support will definitely help them tackle whatever challenges are coming.
All right, quick breather. Let's touch on the slightly more surreal side of the news. Cristiano Ronaldo. Update.
Oh boy, what now?
Apparently, all 37 remaining professional football clubs have put in bids for him as manager. His post-pirate life is just something else.
It's absolutely wild. It just shows the crazy level of global fascination with the guy. Piracy, now maybe back to football management. It just adds to the legend. 37 clubs. Yeah. It proves his brand is just off the charts.
And his solution, pure Ronaldo. He suggests a tournament. Clubs battle it out. Winner gets him as manager.
You're kidding. A tournament?
Nope. And the diplomat says the idea is actually gaining traction. People are talking about it seriously. It's bizarre.
Honestly, only Ronaldo. It speaks volumes about his charisma, the public's hunger for his story. Logistically insane, but yeah, a tournament like that, massive global interest. It cements his unique spot in pop culture.
It's a weird, welcome bit of lightness, I guess. Good to know the world still has room for the utterly unexpected, even now.
Definitely. Ronaldo managing to capture headlines like this. It's a reminder that individual personalities still shape the story, even in weird circumstances.
Okay, back to the serious stuff. Geopolitics. The sense of right alliance expansion still speculation, but the alliance spokesman said something cryptic, that the 9th member was decided before they even built the new conference hall.
Decided beforehand. That implies a deliberate, long-term plan, Not just reacting to recent events, it adds another layer of mystery to who's getting that ninth seat.
We've kicked around the usual suspects, Western states, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, USAN. Does this pre-planning hint at someone less obvious, maybe a nation whose importance only became clear recently?
It's possible. Those main candidates are still strong contenders, based on factors we've discussed. But a long-term strategy might point elsewhere. We even talked briefly about Kazakhstan, their growing influence. Maybe someone like that.
And Diggory Talbot, still pushing hard for the Western states. The diplomat noted his wry comment about not having his invitation yet. Persistent.
Talbot knows the strategic value of joining the alliance. Security, international standing. It's huge for the Western states. His comment shows that ambition, but also the uncertainty. They just don't know yet.
Now let's touch on the culture wars again. Alice Figueroa's novel Unspoken Bonds, still causing waves. Right-wing groups are apparently still hammering away, claiming it's a ball plot.
It's remarkable how those anxieties linger, isn't it? Blaming fiction, seeing it as a tool for ball. It shows that deep-seated fear, the struggle to process what happened during the crisis, by finding these kinds of explanations.
Figueroa responded again, saying she just wanted dialogue, trusts readers. But it hasn't stopped the noise, shows how easily stories get twisted in this polarized climate.
Her defense is classic authorial intent, provoke thought, allow interpretation. But yeah, when suspicion is high and divisions are deep, nuance gets lost. Fear takes over.
And those divisions are raw. Figueroa, Mary Lou Ryan from Right to Love, other queer activists, they've endorsed Bobby Joe Bradley for the Western States presidency.
Okay. And Gillis's reaction?
Called them a nest of vipers.
Oof. Yeah, that lays it bare. The endorsements, Gillis's reaction. It just highlights the massive ideological split, the culture war tearing through the Western states. The candidates are miles apart.
Speaking of the election, another twist. The Western States Senate decided they'll vote on the permanent capital only after the election.
Delaying it. Interesting.
Yeah, Seattle's the de facto capital now, but San Jose, Fort Pontchartrain, even a symbolic return to new bug-tussle D.C. are on the table. Why wait?
Politics, almost certainly. Avoids a messy, divisive fight right before the election, lets candidates talk broader themes. Plus, it gives whoever wins flexibility, maybe use the capital choice as a bargaining chip later.
But people are worried the Senate might just kick the can down the road indefinitely. And the diplomat stresses how symbolic the capital choice is. It's about identity, future direction, not just where the government sits.
Totally. Huge symbolic weight. New bug tussle. Recloning heritage. Seattle, San Jose, Fort Pontchartrain. Signals looking forward. Emphasizes different parts of their identity. It matters.
Finally, let's look at Deseret. The Ottawa Diplomat reports Mitt Romney, president of their quorum, former U.S. president, is staying neutral in the election, not endorsing Bradley or Gillis.
Romney's staying neutral.
Oh.
Wow. That's significant.
And he's also staying quiet on potential secession. When asked, his only comment was, "I will do what's right for Deseret." Cryptic.
Very cryptic. His neutrality is a statement. Keeping options open.
Yeah.
Prioritizing Deseret's interests over Western states' partisanship. And that silence on secession, it hangs heavy.
The article mentions that feeling in Deseret, that they feel forgotten by the Western states, especially after their role in the crisis. Romney's stance could be tapping into that.
That's a sharp take. Romney definitely knows that feeling of disenfranchisement exists. Staying neutral could be calculated, maintain influence no matter who wins, maybe even use the secession threat as leverage for a better deal from the Western states government.
There was also a meeting mentioned briefly. Lehman Cottrell from the Deseret Quorum met with Diggory Talbot, talking relations. So lines of communication are open at least.
That's positive. Dialogue at that level is crucial. If they're going to address the tensions, find a way forward that works for Deseret.
And maybe surprisingly, both Bradley and Gillis publicly said Deseret needs to stay in the Union, some common ground there.
It's surprising, especially from Gillis maybe, but it suggests they both recognize Deseret's strategic economic value. Even Gillis seems to get that losing Deseret would be bad for the Western states.
But Talbot's alliance dreams hit a snag. China apparently gave him a pretty blunt response, told him to worry about your own lands first, specifically mentioned the orc occupation.
Ouch. China calling them out like that. It shows the Western states have a credibility problem internationally. Internal instability. Orcs still on their territory.
Yeah.
Major powers see that as a fundamental weakness. Makes joining a security alliance look premature. Talbot focusing outward when home isn't secure. Not a good look.
And lastly, the diplomat brings us back to Guadalajara. Liam Wu arriving for his coronation today, April 14th. They highlight the personal touch, his father's coffin in the procession. A visible symbol of the transition, the weight of it all.
Yeah. That's powerful imagery, the coffin right there. It emphasizes duty, legacy, and despite all the marriage speculation swirling.
Right, the article says he's keeping his personal life private for now.
Which suggests his focus is squarely on stepping into the role, establishing his own authority as Duke first.
Okay, so let's try to pull this all together. All these threads from the Ottawa Diplomat, just from April 14th, 2025. We've got this seemingly stable succession in Europe.
Contrasted with the Orc thread just fracturing in North America.
Right. Then the ongoing anxiety about the Church of the Ozark Ascension.
But also hopeful steps with the Stargate project, CERN getting a boost.
And all the political drama, the social tensions within the Western states. It's a snapshot, but wow, it shows a world just churning, constant motion.
It really does. And what hits me is how interconnected it all is. Orc instability directly impacts Western states' security, which affects their global standing, their alliance chances. The church popping up in Florida, that has ripple effects. Even a duke's marriage prospects in Europe are viewed through the lens of international power. Nothing happens in isolation.
So for everyone listening, maybe the question is this. With the Orc splintering, is that threat actually fading? Or is it just changing shape, maybe becoming less predictable as new warlords rise? And how will all these internal cracks in the Western states, the politics, Deseret, the security gaps, how will that shape their future and ours? These stories from one day. They're just glimpses, but they tell us so much about the complex reality we're navigating.